All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is under our balance sheet analysis table, we're going to go new measure. And we're going to call this balance sheet table data equals selected value. And we go to our balance sheet selections that we've just created, to the options. So if we select any of those options on the menu, we'll see the actuals. Okay, now on to our final measure, the long one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste it. You'll also have it in the notes, just to speed up the process of creating this text. I could sit here and type it out, but I'm comfortable for just to copy and paste it, and then we run through it. Okay, so I've copied and pasted it. As you can see, it's a long DAX formula. We'll scroll up to the top. I've given it names as the annual balance sheet totals. It's the same as one we did as in the income statement. It was called annual IS totals. Now we're just calling it annual BS totals. So if we start at the top, the first variance we're looking at is the actuals. So again, this section here, the first part, is straight from our current year measure DAX. So we've just brought that in here. So that's the first section. The second variance we've created this last year. So that would be BS last year. That DAX is sitting in here. So you can see there's the current assets last year that we wrote. So move down and we finish it off with a date add function to get the comparative. The next variance is year-on-year change percentage, which is this one here. We've just brought that in there. And what I've also done is I've put a format here. So if you remember, that was the section that we had in this DAX measure here, year-on-year change percentage. All this, we've just formatted it. So if it shows a percentage, we want to show it as the one decimal. So we just put format, brackets, and then when you close the brackets here, you just put that part in there. Okay, so we apply that for each one, because all this is percentages. And again, we put the date add. And then the last variance is the year-on-year change, which is this one here. And that was just the current assets less the current assets prior year, as an example. Okay, you can see it's quite a long, and then we also put the date add because it's year-on-year change. I've also brought in here vertical analysis. You can just copy and paste that. This is the one where we look at the current assets over our total assets as a percentage. We've also formatted it, which we got from this one here, CY. And then right at the end here, what we're doing is we're returning it with a switch true section. So the top part here was actually all the variances we've written. Now what we're saying is if we select actuals, then shows all the actuals. So the actual variance, that was the very first one. If you go to the top here, so you see this actuals here, it's the very first one at the top. There, that's the name of it. Okay, so apply that variance. So this was the whole variance. So if the current item on the balance sheet shows total liabilities, show me the total liabilities measure. So this is what we mean by the actuals here. The next variance we wrote was versus last year. Then we wrote vertical analysis, year-on-year change, and then year-on change percentage. So if you remember, in the previous video, we created a menu. So if we select actuals from the menu, it shows the actual variance statement and then the outcome. If we select versus last year, show us, bring up this variance, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm comfortable that this one seems to be working. I haven't seen any errors. If we do get errors later on, we can just go back and fix it. But as you can see, it's quite a long DAX formula. You can type it out if you want. It's probably best because that's how you learn. So I'm just going to press enter here. Make sure that we get no errors. Okay, it seems to be working fine. Okay, before we wrap up, I'm going to just delete column 1 here. Then we should be done with the balance sheet. Then we're going to move now on to the cash flow. Let's make sure before we do. Okay, that's fine. What I want to do here is I just want to run through each one of these and just make sure there's nothing that doesn't look right. Like here, that should be liabilities. That's a spelling error there. So I need to correct that. And there should be a space here, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so that looks fine. It's always important you just double check your measures, because there are so many, there's bound to be some spelling errors. So like here again, let's just move this up. Okay, looks fine. Okay, let's just have a look at this long one. That looks fine. Might just have to move that up one. This is same here. Okay. All right, so it doesn't look like we've got any errors here, so that concludes the balance sheet measures. As you can see, there was also quite a few of them that we created. We'll now move on to our cash flow model, where we're going to be applying the same steps. And then once we've wrapped that up, we'll actually move on to the fun part, which is actually now building our visuals, building our table, building all our financial statements, and then building some dashboards. All right, thanks.